Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Nwaodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, bill for an act to ban open grazing and end farmer header crisis in the country scales second reading in the Senate after a slight heated debate by the lawmakers. No deal still on new national minimum wage as tripartite committee ends second day of talks without agreement. House of Representatives asks federal government to refocus negotiations. And Kaduna State House of Assembly accuses former Governor El-Rufai of diversion of public funds during his tenure in office, recommends his investigation and prosecution. Mr. El-Rufai describes claims as malicious.
On business news tonight, the federal government plans suspension of import duties on food and other essential items to curb inflation.
On sports news tonight, 17-year-old Mira Andreeva reaches her first Grand Slam semi-final after defeating world number 2 Arina Sabalenka 6-7, 6-4, 6-4.
And from the nation's capital, police in Zamfara state say they have arrested some high-profile persons, including a member of the State House of Assembly and a district head, in connection with banditry in the state.
And in international news from London, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to retain power, but his BJP party have lost its outright parliamentary majority for the first time in 10 years.
In a move to finally bring an end to the farmer header crisis, the Senate has passed through second reading a bill for an act to ban open grazing and establish ranches in the country. The passage, however, came with a slightly heated debate among the lawmakers, arising from a portion of the bill which proposes that the ranches be established in pastoralist states without forcing it on other states that do not have pastoralist communities. The Senate further proposed a national summit on the matter, in addition to the public hearing of the comprehensive solution. Our correspondent Gloria Umezoke reports.
On the second legislative day of the week, lawmakers reconvene in the upper chamber as they reintroduce the intricate subject of ranching. In a lead debate, the sponsor of the bill, Senator Titus Zam, hinges his argument on the need to discard the old-fashioned open grazing and embrace ranching.
Now is the time to put a permanent stop to the endless cycle of attacks and counter-attacks by our people and their external collaborators.
It also means that this is also the time for us to take another look at the law that makes land to be in the hands of states.
The National Livestock Production Scheme was introduced under the Vice President. Everything was packaged, but some states refused.
Then the arguments intensified as the lawmakers argued along polarized lines.
We cannot resolve this issue if we are sentimental. Going by this bill, it will compound our crisis in Nigeria. Some people close their eyes on what is going on or what lead herders to go against farmers.
Every citizen of Nigeria is entitled to move freely throughout Nigeria and to reside in any part thereof.
The section you are referring to is talking about citizens of Nigeria.
Yes.
And cows are not citizens of Nigeria. Cows can come in from Niger, they can come in from Chad, anywhere. But cows are not citizens. So let's go to the public hearing. And I think we should combine the public hearing also with the national dialogue that we had earlier approved.
Separately, the Senate debated a bill for an act to amend the Free Universal Basic Education Act 2024, seeking to scale down the number of out-of-school children and increase the penalty for defaulting parents.
The sum of 2,000 as provided in the Act to be paid by defaulting parents in today's value of the Naira will not serve as a major deterrent. Hence, the inevitable need to increase the fine to 250,000.
The bill subsequently scales second reading and referred to the Committee on Basic and Secondary Education to report back in 2 weeks. The Senate has also passed through second reading a bill for an act to establish the Nigeria Gold Industry Framework and Other Related Matters 2024 to intrinsically expand the exploitation and sales of gold and, most importantly, mete out appropriate sanctions for illegal miners in the country. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In other stories, there is still no agreement on a new national minimum wage as members of the Tripartite Committee ended the second day of their negotiations without an agreement, and that's after the suspension of the industrial action by the organized labor. The meeting, which was held behind closed doors in Abuja, had representatives of organized labor, the private sector, states and federal governments in attendance. The president had yesterday directed the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wali Edu, to present a financial guide for negotiations towards a new minimum wage within 48 hours. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is asking the federal government to redirect the focus of its negotiation with labor from fixing a new minimum wage to fixing a realistic living wage. The House is also calling for the downward review of the recently increased electricity tariff. These resolutions were reached after considering a motion on the need to avert future industrial action by the organized labor. In the meantime, the House is to investigate alleged illegal spending of frontier funds by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Ikumi has the details.
Federal lawmakers reconvene in the Green Chamber after suspending plenary the previous day due to the industrial action by the labor unions.
Thank you.
The Deputy Speaker presides as a matter of urgent public importance on the need to consider the imperatives of fixing a living wage for Nigerian workers is presented.
Urge government to redirect the focus of negotiations from fixing a new minimum wage to fixing a realistic living wage for Nigerian workers.
Lawmakers are torn between condemning the extent of the strike action and the need for a living wage for Nigerian workers.
I will urge this House to please, with the speed with which we pass the national anthem, that we should also recall the Minimum Wage Act, reconsider it, and with that same speed, pass that act. Where the executive arm refuses to assent, I think that will be the first call on this House for us to override, Mr. President.
We actually have to criminalize the part where we shut down the national grid. Shutting down the national grid is killing the same people we are protecting.
Section 31, subsection 6 of the Trade Union Act, as amended, prohibits workers and their unions from organizing or participating in strikes if they are engaged in the provision of essential services, power, water, or fuel.
Lawmakers then make suggestions on what a realistic living wage should be.
I'll suggest the price of one bag of rice is 75,000 today. Let it be the list of negotiating and now put into consideration school fees of individuals.
The law of Nigeria recognizes that as a person, you are entitled to one wife, 4 children, and then your mother and father. These are the things that you are entitled to take care. Even in the tax relief or whatever, these are the indices and the factors given to us. And so by implication, you are supposed to have that minimum wage that will cater for this number of persons.
The ayes have it.
The motion is passed as the House also urges the federal government to further consider the downward review of electricity tariff to reduce the sufferings of Nigerians. Meanwhile, another motion of urgent public importance before the House is the Frontier Exploration Fund, which is allegedly being illegally spent by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited.
The NNPC Limited has consistently assessed and expended funds from the Frontier Exploration Fund without prior appropriation and approval by the National Assembly as required by the Act. Mr. Speaker, he has further informed that hundreds of millions of dollars have been irregularly withdrawn from this fund and expended on white elephant projects.
The House mandates its relevant committees to investigate the matter and report back within 4 weeks. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
No reenactment.
Meanwhile, the Senate has approved a bill seeking improved salaries, allowances, and fringe benefit for judicial office holders in Nigeria by 300% as a bill scheduled second reading today. The approval followed the adoption of the report by the Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, Senator Mohammed Monguno. According to the lawmaker, adequate remuneration will allow judicial officers focus on their professional development without worrying about financial constraint. He further notes that the increment under consideration has been captured in the 2024 Appropriation Act. Let's head to Kaduna State, where the ad hoc committee set up by the State House of Assembly to investigate all finances, loans, and contracts awarded under the former Governor Nasir El-Rufai has recommended the investigation and prosecution of the former governor. Also to be prosecuted are some other indicted members of his cabinet for alleged abuse of office through award of contract without due process, diversion of public funds, and money laundering. This came to the fore today after the committee submitted its report to the House of Assembly. Receiving that report, the Speaker of the Kaduna's House of Assembly, Yusuf Liman, said the total of 423 billion naira was allegedly siphoned by the El-Rufai administration, leaving the state with huge liabilities.
The total amount of money siphoned by the Kaduna State government from 29 May 2015 and 29 May 2023 was 423 billion 115 million and 28,072 naira 88 kobo. The committee found devious transactions, suspicious transactions, diversion. All domestic loans and foreign obtained by the Kaduna State government between 2019 May 2015 to 2019 May 2023 and found by the committee to have been obtained without due process are not binding on the state, and the state government should henceforth stop honoring all obligations arising from them.
Meanwhile, former Governor Nasir El-Rufai appears not to be taking the allegations by the Kaduna State House of Assembly against his government lightly, and has dismissed the claims as scandalous. In a statement by his media advisor, Muiwa Adekeye, Malam El-Rufai explains that he is immensely proud of his record of governance and the legacy he left behind in Kaduna State. The record, he notes, cannot be altered by any malicious effort to use the auspices of the state legislature for defamation and undeserved smears. He adds that it is obvious that the ad hoc committee is merely going through the motions of an inquiry just to give some clause to predetermined conclusions, adding that it is sad to see a shameful departure from any notion of decency and fairness by a state legislature. In part two, after the break, Federal High Court in Lagos grants order of interim forfeiture of properties valued at over 11 billion naira linked to the embattled former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. Please stay with us.
Hello, this is Premium Pension. How can we help?
Our experts work behind the scenes, enabling our members grow wealth to secure a premium tomorrow. We see your hard work and we make your money work hard for you. We are growing with you in commitment and service. Leveraging technology to meet your demands. Secure your future and pave way for the next generation. Embracing diversity with firm roots across the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT. Premium Pension. Active today, premium tomorrow.
Make we talk. Time don't read to rearrange his house to give una small wisdom. Una think say una sabi. Shout my tea fresh now, but una own I beg no be so. Before una go talk say our smell no reach. Make una think am twice so. We know they here to the point una with our small finger. We show una solution instead. Ever heard of Colgate? The number one oral care brand in the world. On a slide, we'll find that chemistry as it's supposed to be. You can see why we are the coolest around. For zero cavity and long-lasting fresh breath. Mom, it's your time to brush. Mama and Papa buy up, use up, and shine your smile. No more cover mouth. Because we Colgate, that will do your job with your smile.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic, and enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Bill for an act to ban open grazing and end farmer header crisis in the country scales second reading in the Senate after a slight heated debate by the lawmakers. No deal still on new national minimum wage as tripartite committee ends second day of talks without agreement. House of Representatives asks federal government to refocus negotiation. Kaduna State House of Assembly accuses former Governor El-Rufai of diversion of public funds during his tenure in office, recommends his investigation and persecution. Mr. El-Rufai describes claims as malicious. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to retain power, but his BJP party has lost its outright parliamentary majority for the first time in 10 years. At head to Niger State, where the search and rescue efforts have continued at the mining pit, which collapsed on Monday, trapping some miners in Galkago community of Shiroro local government area of the state. The Director Relief and Rehabilitation of Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Saliu Garba, said a joint rescue operation is ongoing to excavate the over 400-meter-long mining pit, which caved in on the miners, including the site manager, whose name was given as Ibrahim Ishaku. Meanwhile, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Myro Man, has said the government is hopeful that the trapped victims will be rescued, but has admitted that it is a difficult task.
The incident occurred in Shiruru local government in a community called Galadimankogo. It's a mining site, a registered mining site, and the pit that collapsed is over 40 meters depth. So you can imagine how very serious the situation is. And the incident, as you are aware, occurred a day before yesterday. And since the occurrence, as a state government, we have been coordinating with our response partners, particularly at the state level, the State Ministry of Solid Mineral, and at the federal level, the same sister states at the federal level. We've been also coordinating with the security agencies to ensure that a very desperate search and rescue operation is being carried out on the site.
From what the ordinary eyes have seen, it will be difficult, because these are heavy stones, and the way we saw the depth, even from the pictures that we saw, it will be difficult. But then, in the sight of God, nothing is impossible. So probably we are hopeful. We can't be hopeless, because there is nothing that God cannot do. We are not hopeless. We are hopeful that probably some people may still survive. But in terms of numbers, it will not be right for us to say specifically what numbers now we have. It could be less, it could be more. Because if you look at the porosity of the place, honestly, we cannot tell. So we are hopeful.
Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in Niger State, Mr. Shawulu Damaman, says the owners of the collapsed mining site in Shiroro are operating without any regard to safety measures and welfare of the laborers. In an interview with Channels Television shortly after the fact-finding visit to the site, Mr. Badamaman explains that 14 of the 20 victims are still trapped, while 6 persons have been rescued.
We discovered that the 14 victims on the ground are still trapped, though rescue operations were still ongoing. A heavy stone fell and blocked the mine's path. It was difficult to remove that heavy stone. Until today, when we arrived, they've been able to remove the heavy stones, and they were still on trying to now excavate and get to the victims. But the truth is, equipments are insufficient. Medicaments, I didn't see anyone. No ambulance even on site. But we hope that they will get them out and they will be out alive.
And now to the Judiciary. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has granted an order of interim forfeiture of properties valued at over 11 billion naira linked to the embattled former governor of the CBN, Mr. Baldwin Emefiele. While Justice Chukwujeku Aneke made this order sequel to a motion ex parte filed and argued by the counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Rotimi Oyedepo. The court ordered the interim forfeiture of the properties located in highbrow parts of the Federal Capital Territory to the federal government. Mr. Oyedepo informed the court that the former CBN governor allegedly bought the choice properties by proxy with the proceeds of fraud. The EFCC also named 3 CBN staff Obayemi Taben, Akomolafe Adebayo, and Olubunmi Makinde as MFLA's accomplices who allegedly used their positions and influence to secure retail and special allocation of foreign exchange to different companies in exchange for kickbacks. Justice Aneke has ordered the EFCC to publish in the order in the newspaper for any interested party to show cause, while the final order of forfeiture should not be made. The judge adjourned till June the 21st for hearing of the application for final forfeiture. In another legal matter, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has adjourned hearing in a suit instituted by the impeached Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, against Governor Godwin Obaseki and others until June the 28th. The suit, seeking to declare his impeachment as unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional, was adjourned by the judge following the absence of some of the defendants in court. At the day's proceedings, the counsel to Mr. Shaibu, Ayotunde Ogunleye, informed the court that the matter was initially slated for Monday, June the 3rd, but was not done due to the labor strike. And based on this agreement of counsel, Justice Omotosho fixed June the 28th for hearing of the suit, but warned that he could not tolerate any further delay from any party in the hearing of the matter. And staying with the judiciary, this time in Kano State, where State High Court today granted an order to serve the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, and order defendants in the high-profile bribery and corruption case through substituted means. The state government had brought a 10-count charge against Mr. Ganduje, his wife, Hafsat Umar, and several associates, alleging bribery, misappropriation, and diversion of public funds amounting to billions of naira. During the day's proceedings, Prosecution Counsel Zardine Kofara Mata moved the ex parte motion, which was supported by 7 paragraphs seeking to serve respondents through substituted means by publishing the summons in 2 national daily newspapers. Justice Amina Adamu Aliyu granted the order and further directed all parties involved to present their individual fiat at the court before adjourning the matter till July the 11th for further hearing. We have more stories for you as we head over to Abuja studios, where Terry Kumi is standing by. Hello, Terry.
Well, hi, Anne. From courts, let's go to matters of insecurity now. The Commissioner of Police in Zamfara State, Mohammed Dalijan, says the command has arrested some high-profile persons, including a member of the State House of Assembly and a district head, in connection with banditry in the state. CP Dalijan made this known while hosting Thomas Parker, in charge of the counter-terrorism unit under the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime at the command headquarters in Gusau, the Zamfara State Nations, to help establish a forensic laboratory to address the challenge of going to Lagos to conduct forensic analysis.
Banditry has been a cause for concern for many living in and around Zamfara State. The over a decade situation has continued to force residents to lose their source of livelihood and abandon their ancestral homes. The coalition of northern groups, the Center for Community Excellence, and Human Rights Agenda Network Zamfara believe the situation is both a law enforcement and socioeconomic issue, requiring a combination of both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches.
The CNG believes there is an urgent need for a multidimensional approach to reduce the spread of banditry and other forms of insecurity in the state.
It is no longer an issue of defensive mechanism. Let it be offensive. This bandit, about 85% of them, they are born and brought up in Zamfara State. Their enclave and their camps are known. What is stopping the government from attacking them to eliminate them one and for all in order to have peace to reign in Zamfara State?
Sit down.
In the meantime, the police command in the state is making some revelation as it concerns the efforts to stem banditry.
Banditry in Zamfara State.
The Commissioner of Police in Zamfara State, while hosting the head of the counterterrorism unit at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, Nigeria Country Office, said the police had arrested high-profile persons, which included a member of the State Assembly, a district head, and former local government chairman in the state. He, however, noted that crime rates have reduced in Zamfara State due to the ongoing efforts of security agencies in collaboration with Community Protection Guards, CPGs.
Last month, we arrested a member of the State House of Assembly. We arrested a district head. We also as well arrested a former local government chairman. So you can see that involvement of this class of people in banditry is making the situation to become more and more complex.
His guest, the head of the counterterrorism unit, said they were in Zamfara state on the appeal that Governor Dauda Lawal had made to the United Nations to assist the state in tackling the insecurity surrounding it.
The governor contacted the United Nations and asked if we could send an assessment mission up to the region to see a range of different areas, what possible areas there could be for collaboration. We'll then take that back to donor nations and try and persuade them to commit to supporting your efforts here in various different ways.
The UNODC team also engaged with stakeholders in Zamfara state to understand the scope, the spread of the challenges, and major drivers of the insecurity in the state, as well as how best it can provide support in addressing the menace.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the federal government plans suspension of import duties on food and other essential items to curb inflation. That's on Business Week.
Is Nigeria's biggest and most preferred agent banking network. Thanks to First Money, millions of people are living their dreams. Meet some First Money agents who are driving this.
One Kisu Kireke from First Bank introduced me to First Money. I forgot searching for jobs.
Ya taimaki mutane sosai wurin matsowa kusa da yanayin banki. Da sai sun tafiya mai nisa kamin su je su samu banki.
Through First Money, over 1 million people across Nigeria have their financial services needs met daily. In all the accessible local government areas, you're bound to find First Money agents. With First Money, we're bringing financial inclusion and the many benefits that come with it. You first. First Bank.
It's hot. Have you seen the remote?
No, I haven't seen it.
How did you do that?
Enjoy the delicious creamy goodness of cowbells. With Vitarich and vitamin B9, which supports brain development. Cowbell, so creamy, so good.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, enriched with 95% pure vitamin C and pulp extract. For visibly radiant and even-toned skin in just 2 weeks. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, for your shade of beautiful.
Welcome back to the news at 10. Breaking the infrastructural barriers between urban and rural areas by enhancing development in all parts of the country is a priority of the federal government. And this is according to the Vice President Kashim Shettima. He said this while representing President Bola Tinubu at the commissioning of the Inner Northern Expressway in Abuja. He also commended the FCT administration for the completion of the project. Our correspondent Kumbia Boluwade reports.
Vice President Kashim Shettima arrives for the 6th project commissioning by the administration of the Federal Capital Territory.
You may be seated.
In attendance is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, top management staff of the FCTA, and other dignitaries. The Inner Southern Expressway, which is also known as the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Way, was awarded in 2010 at the cost of 17 billion naira. It links the Abuja-Kefi Road to the city center. The idea is to reduce traffic coming into the city center from towns like Nyanya, Mararaba, and other communities.
The contractor can attest to the fact that we are not paying a dime as far as this road is concerned. It is fully paid, and it is because of your directive that all ongoing projects and dealing with the Renewed Hope agenda must be completed. And we're happy that the residents of Abuja can see the new look of the Federal Capital Territory.
Vice President Kashim Shettima represented President Bola Tinubu at the ceremony and expresses the commitment of the federal government to addressing the infrastructure deficit in rural areas.
The extension of the ISEX represents more than just a road. It symbolizes connectivity, accessibility, and opportunity. It signifies our unwavering determination to bridge the gap between urban and rural areas, ensuring that development is not confined to city centers, but reaches every corner of our great nation. As we celebrate this achievement, it is crucial once again to acknowledge the concerted efforts of the FCT Minister, Chief Barrister Ezenwonya Wike and his team. Wike is one of the best appointments ever made in the history of the current democratic dispensation in this country.
It was then time for the commissioning.
In the name of the Almighty God and for service to humanity.
The commissioning of this 3.6-kilometer road by the present FCT administration is crucial as it links one of the area councils and Nasarawa State to the city center, thereby easing traffic and boosting economic development. From the nation's capital, Kumbi Aboluwade, Channels Television News.
To education matters now, the Enugu State Governor Peter Mba has called for innovative approaches and huge investments by government and stakeholders to leapfrog education in Nigeria and across Africa to meet the Sustainable Development Goal. Governor Mba was speaking in Enugu at the opening of the Maiden NG Educators International Model, an initiative of the International Human Rights Commission in partnership with the Enugu State Government.
It is quite sobering that since the launch of the SDGs and nearly 50 years after many African countries committed to the objectives of universal basic education, we're still largely confronted with the specter of out-of-school children at a proportion that can never be tenable. As a former colony, this country inherited an old design of education which has long served its purpose. The rest of the world has moved on to a new design, a new trajectory of development and progress. We are blessed with amazing human and natural resources with which we can create a future and write a new narrative. The world won't wait for our children. Our children must leapfrog and catch up with the rest of the world.
So some company news now. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited is planting 500 trees across the country to mark the 2024 World Environment Day. The company is partnering the Ministry of Environment in this effort through its foundation. The Managing Director of the NNPC Foundation, Mrs. Emanuela Arukwe, flagged off the tree planting exercise in Abuja. Mrs. Arukwe explains that the goal is to fight deforestation and climate change, as well as secure a healthy planet for future generations.
World Environment Day is marked annually on the 5th of June. And this year, the NNPC Foundation is partnering the Federal Ministry of Environment in the drive to call attention to the effects of climate change.
By the Honorable Minister of State of Environment,
The theme of this year's day is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience, and it's the focus of the Minister of State for Environment and the NNPC Foundation.
The Special Presidential Initiative for Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation in the 2024 budget being implemented by the Federal Ministry of Environment contains significant nature-based initiatives. This is in addition to other afforestation, reforestation, and land restoration and reclamation initiatives like the Green Grey Wall, the mangrove restoration, and so on, being implemented under the ministry. In commemoration of the 2024 World Environment Day, we have lined up strategic programs including tree planting in schools, sponsorship of quiz competitions to celebrate the day, presentations to school children, and other events are all targeted at sensitizing the citizenry on environmental preservation.
Done with the formalities, the foundation gets down to business at the Government Science Secondary School, Wuse 2, where students were enlightened on the dangers of not taking care of the environment. The managing director of the foundation then leads a team to plant a tree at the school's premises, where she highlighted the objectives of the project.
We've had some engagement also with the Federal Ministry of Environment earlier today. So this is being done simultaneously across other states like Bauchi, Enugu, Lagos, and Benin in the environment. And I'm very excited because I can see they're excited. Students are excited here, and they've pledged that they're going to sustain this tree. We'll be visiting next year. And I told them that this is one of the schools nearest to us in the NNPC headquarters. So it's like a school. We've come before to give them STEM books. It's like, I would say, it's a pet school, really, because it's near to us. So we want to make sure that the people within our locality are also doing what we are preaching.
The tree planting efforts was also done simultaneously across Nigeria by officials of the foundation. That's all from the nation's capital. The news continues in Lagos with Anne.
Thank you, Terry. Nigeria's leading beverage company, 7-Up Bottling Company, which is one of Nigeria's leading companies, has commenced a green environment initiative to plant 2,500 trees across Nigeria in their One Staff, One Tree campaign. This initiative, which was part of the company's World Environment Day celebration, was flagged off at the Lekki-Epe Expressway in Lagos in partnership with Lekki Residents Stakeholders Association, as well as the Eco Restoration Foundation.
Desert encroachment, drought, soil erosion, deforestation all sum up major environmental challenge in Nigeria today. And with the theme of this year's World Environment Day, many, including companies, have joined in the efforts to restore our lands in order to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent a mass extinction. The MD of Nigeria's beverage business, 7-Up Bottling Company, joined others in this symbolic move, planting trees. This effort, the company believes, is heeding the rally call for the protection and revival of ecosystems all around the world, which is critical to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
What about we plant one tree for every employee we have, which is 2,500 trees. Between me and myself, I thought this is a big thing for her. She cannot handle in 1 week. But one person pushed me to do it, got all of you here, and we have the trees, so we are so proud of you.
The experts say the healthier our ecosystems are, the healthier our planet and its people. Greening our environment will help in halting and reversing the degradation of our land.
We all have our responsibilities, and I'm glad that the SBC has taken up upon themselves to ensure that their employees are also environmentally responsible by not just being an environmentally responsible organization, but the staff as well.
With its One Staff, One Tree campaign, 7up Bottling Company says protecting the environment is embedded in its modus operandi and has partnered with many to ensure its success.
Like many responsible companies, we believe in the triple balance sheet, people, profit, planet. So it's part of our corporate strategy. It's embedded. We make plans for it every year. There is no SBC without our sustainability agenda. So for us, we don't really think about it in terms of how we will do it. It's part of the plan. It's part of our business.
7up Bottling Company has shown that they actually understand the environment, and they are not just interested in the commercial venture in Nigeria. They are showing interest in the environment, and the true test of it is putting their money behind it. We want to say thank you to them, and we want to commend them to stay the course, because the beginning is good, but taking it to the end is what is good.
Today, 7up Bottling Company has flagged off a One Staff, One Tree initiative that it believes will reawaken the consciousness of every Nigerian to save the planet through the planting of trees.
Still company news, Fidelity Bank PLC has concluded all necessary arrangements to raise a total of up to 127.1 billion naira by way of rights issue and public offer. The plan culminated in a signing ceremony today between Fidelity Bank and issuing houses at the bank's head office in Lagos. The combined offer is part of the bank's strategy to increase its share capital base in compliance with the Central Bank of Nigeria's revised minimum capital requirements for Nigerian commercial banks.
Subsequent to CBN's recapitalization circular published on March 28, 2024, and shareholders' approval, Fidelity Bank PLC takes a bold step towards achieving the revised minimum capital requirements for Nigerian commercial banks. This informs the coming together of the board chairman and other board members of the bank, heads of issuing houses, and other professional partners to append their signatures to documents that contain the MOU that will enable them work together on the capital raising exercise. In a combined offer, Fidelity Bank hopes to increase its capital base with over 127 billion naira through rights issued to shareholders and a public offer.
The funds raised will enable us to expand our business franchise, improve our IT infrastructure, and render better customer service experiences. We are confident that these investments will solidify our position as a leading financial institution and unlock even greater value for our shareholders.
Stanbic IBTC Capital is the lead issuing house to the combined offer.
They've heard the story, they've seen the benefits and the return that shareholders in the bank they've been getting over the years. The offer also provide them the opportunity to come and be a partaker of this good performance and good returns.
Fidelity Bank says it is the first among a full-fledged financial institution to undertake rights issue and public offer in its recapitalization plan.
Today we held our signing ceremony of our rights issue of 3.2 billion shares at 50 kobo each, and it's coming in at 9.25 kobo. And also for the public offer of 10 billion shares at 50 ordinary shares at 50 kobo each, and that's coming in at 9.75 kobo. And this shows that we understand the market and the Nigerian economy at large.
Besides Stanbic IBTC Capital, other joint issuing houses include Iron Global Markets Limited, Carry Asset Management Limited, AfriInvest Capital Limited, and FSL Securities Limited. Others are Future View Financial Services Limited, Iroko Capital Market Advisory Limited, Kairos Capital Limited, and Planet Capital Limited.
We now delve into the world of business, where Dominic Iwewu is standing by to give us more.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, the federal government says it's planning to suspend import duties on staple foods, drugs, and other essential items for 6 months to slow inflation. This plan, detailed in a document sent to President Bola Tinubu, also includes waiving levies on fertilizers, poultry feed, flour, and grains. The proposed accelerated stabilization and advancement plan will also suspend input duties on agricultural inputs, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing materials. It also requires the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria to provide low-interest loans to agriculture, pharmaceutical, and manufacturing sectors. In addition, the document recommends suspending value-added tax on automotive gas oil, basic food items, electricity, and public transportation, as well as pegging import exchange rates at 800 naira to the dollar. President Tinubu is expected to sign the executive order after consultations and necessary revisions. Meanwhile, the federal government is assuring that the successful implementation of its compressed natural gas CNG initiative will save the country at least $4.4 billion from its total annual spending on fuel importation. This is as the Tinubu-led administration seeks ways to foster sustainable energy solutions and reduce carbon emissions while also cushioning the impact of fuel subsidy removal, which has led to a significant increase in the price of fuel and diesel. According to the program director of the presidential CNG initiative, Mr. Michael Oluwagbemi, the transition to natural gas will bring about a more affordable, cleaner, safer, and sustainable economy. The Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, says it is set to pay depositors of Heritage Bank. The NDIC's managing director, Bello Hassan, gave this assurance during a press briefing in Abuja. This comes after the central bank revoked Heritage Bank's license on June the 3rd due to financial issues. Mr. Hassan states that NDIC, as the liquidator, aims to pay insured depositors within 30 days as required by law, with payments to begin within 1 week. The domestic equities market records its first positive close this week as investors showed interest in Nestle Nigeria and banking stocks. Ini John Mekwa tells us more.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's a different day today, very first time in the month of June. We saw the NGX closing in the green, and that's thanks to market mover Nestle. Nestle gained 5 naira, that's about 0.55%, to close at 910 naira. That's in the consumer goods, and so for some time now, we're shifting our attention to the consumer goods, where we see it's up 0.15%, but that doesn't mean that the banking did not do well. We saw banking up 2.46%. I think that's secular from the CBN, clarifying that there'll be no more revocation of bank licenses, also helped and changed the sentiment around the banking counter. And then oil and gas also changed its status today from the unchanged. We normally see it. Eternal oil gained 9.80%, and so oil and gas is up 0.26%. And so at the close of trade, a positive one, obviously, for the NGX. The market gained 132 billion naira, pushing the oil share up 0.24% at 99,284.38. And yes, that 132 billion naira added right here, 56.16 trillion naira. And so for the first time in June, the bull is back.
Let's take a look at other markets around.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Dominic. We head over now for Simon Puse with other international news and around the world in 5 from our London studios.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to retain power, but his BJP party has lost its outright parliamentary majority for the first time in 10 years. NDA bloc secured 293 seats above the 272 mark needed to form a government. Mr. Modi thanked voters for their mandate and said he would do everything to eradicate corruption and poverty. The opposition coalition, India, performed far better than expected, securing 232 seats. The India alliance has not accepted defeat and says it will meet later to decide the next steps. A court in Florence has reconvicted Amanda Knox for slander years after she was acquitted of murdering her British roommate Meredith Kircher in 2007. Ms. Knox will not go to prison as she has already served 4 years for the murder, for which she was originally convicted. At the time, she was also convicted of slander for blaming the murder on local bar owner Patrick Lumumba during a police interrogation, but that conviction was quashed last year and a retrial ordered. Ms. Knox's lawyers have said they expect to appeal against the latest verdict. US President Joe Biden's Republican rivals and some of his Democratic allies have criticized his new executive order aimed at curbing record migrant arrivals at the US-Mexico border. Under the order, which took effect at midnight, officials can quickly remove migrants entering the US illegally without processing their asylum requests. Left-wing Democrats, activists and the UN have voiced concerns, while Republicans have criticized the plan. But Mr. Biden says his Republican opponents stood in the way of a bipartisan border security deal that failed in Congress earlier this year.
Republicans in Congress, not all, but walked away from it. Today, I'm joined by a bipartisan group of governors, members of Congress, mayors, law enforcement officials, most of whom live and work along the southern border. They know the border is not a political issue to be weaponized. The responsibility we have to share, to do something about it. They don't have time for the games played in Washington, and neither do the American people. So today, I'm moving past Republican obstruction and using the executive authorities available to me as president to do what I can on my own to address the border.
Hezbollah rockets have sparked days of bushfires in northern Israel, with swathes of forest reserve destroyed and 11 people hospitalized for smoke inhalation. Patches of scorched earth start to appear about half an hour from the Lebanon border, with plumes of grey smoke mapping the route to either side across the hills. Local residents in Israel's largely deserted northern communities have been battling scattered fires for several weeks. One member of a civil defense team said there had been 15 to 16 fires in the area since then. South Africa's African National Congress has suggested forming a government of national unity after losing its parliamentary majority in last week's elections.
The results indicate that the South Africans want all parties to work together.
It says it has reached out to all parties, but negotiations are still underway. The ANC got about 40% of the vote, with the centre-right Democratic Alliance on 22%, the MK party of the former President Jacob Zuma on 15%, and the Radical Economic Freedom Fighters on 9% of the vote. Actor Alec Baldwin and his wife Hilaria Baldwin are set to star in their own reality TV show about their family.
We're inviting you into our home to experience the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the wild and the crazy.
The couple, who have 7 children, all under the age of 10, said the Baldwins will air on US cable network TLC in 2025. However, the decision to do the show has been criticised due to Alec Baldwin's forthcoming trial. The actor is set to stand trial in July for involuntary manslaughter over a fatal shooting on the set of the Western movie Rust in 2021. And King Charles has paid a heartfelt tribute to those who had taken part in the D-Day landings, praising them for replacing tyranny with freedom.
For we are all eternally in their debt.
He was speaking in Portsmouth, one of the key departure points for the Normandy landings in June 1944. The King hailed the courage, resilience and solidarity of those who had taken part in D-Day and whose numbers were now dwindling to so few. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon. Sports is now. Nigeria's Falconets have been drawn to play 3-time winners Germany, Venezuela and Korea Republic in Group D of this year's FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup Finals. The draw ceremony took place earlier today in Bogota, Colombia. And Russian teenager Mira Andreeva claimed the biggest win of her career against an out-of-sorts Arina Sabalenka to reach the semi-finals of the French Open. Andreeva, ranked 38th in the world, defeated Sabalenka 6-7, 6-4, 6-4, and will face Jasmine Paolini in the last 4 of the competition. Elsewhere, Jasmine Paolini stunned Elena Rybakina in a back-and-forth contest to reach her first Grand Slam semi-final at the French Open. Paolini won 6-2, 4-6, 6-4 against the 4th seed on a windy court. And that's sports news. I'm Kelly. It's back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. The bill for an act to ban open grazing and end farmer header crisis in the country today scaled second reading in the Senate after a slightly heated debate by the lawmakers. And that's news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Have a wonderful night rest.